Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I hope you are doing well today. I'm flying the flag solo today, but we're going to be talking, I am going to be talking about marathon training and how to structure your training in the lead up to your big target race. So in the world of 2021, a lot of races have been put back to the autumn. So September and October are shaping up to be busy. However, this video will be applicable at any time if you are thinking about a marathon in the future. So today we're going to be talking about a few different topics, basically what your training should look like, how long it should be, and just some tips to take into that training block at the start. So we're sitting now in May. And as I said before, a lot of the races are in September and October. So a lot of people are starting to think about their big races that they've got upcoming. So first off, let's talk about how long our training plan should be. Now, if you were to Google how long should a marathon training plan be, most of the Google will tell you 16 weeks. Sort of 4 months is kind of around the time that people kind of often train for a marathon. This might be down to the fact that 4 months is a long time to invest into a big race, but also allows you that enough time to prepare. However, you have to think about where you're starting with your training and what you've previously done. So if you are a beginner, you could set your marathon target over a year away and just say, I'm going to take my time and build up to it gradually. So you could be on a training plan up until then. However, if you are a bit more experienced and you've done a couple before, then sort of 12 to 16 weeks is the typical amount of time that we see people training for a marathon. Now, for me, I will normally go for like a 16-week plan, again, because, it's a nice chunk of time to be able to invest in, but also not too much that you feel like it's going to overwhelm you. However, I have got a marathon in the autumn, and I've kind of been training for this already. So started kind of in January, and I'm training for a spring marathon, which will then hopefully springboard me into the future. So you can kind of be training for it for a long period of time if you've got a big target race, but you just have to treat it as different cycles. So this cycle for me is working towards just a marathon to get the distance back under my belt again. I'll take a couple of weeks recovery and then build back into the marathon training plan probably in around June sometime. So if you have got a race, most people in 2021 will be starting their marathon training in June. But as I said, it doesn't matter. You don't have to start in 16 weeks. Like if you haven't done much training already and you have got one of those races booked in, then why not start now? You just have to make sure that it's structured right and the plan is tailored to you to make sure that you can be as strong as you can be on that start line, but also make sure that you remain injury-free along the process. So next up, what should a marathon training plan look like and what should be the stages? So typically there's kind of around 4 stages to your marathon training plan. And again, these can be sort of vary in distance, so thinking about races now, but they can vary in length depending on how long you're training for. 4 phases of a training plan should look as follows. So number 1, we call this the build or the base phase. Now this could be quite a lengthy phase if you are sort of, like we say, training for a year. It could be a couple of months. And in that base phase, it's just about building consistency, building a really good routine and building habits to lead you into the rest of your plan. So it could be just about making sure you're continuously running a couple of times a week, start the introduction of core and strength work, make sure you're doing all of your stretching. And the idea is just to basically build those foundations so that when you layer on top of those, as the mileage starts to creep up, your body is ready and accustomed to it already. If you are quite experienced, then you might have some speed work in there, but if you are quite new to it, it could be just about going out and just easy running in that aerobic zone just to get you ready and prepped for when you start to layer it up on top of that. Number 2 is then kind of like the strength phase, and this is when you start to build in, you could build in, say, a half marathon into your training plan that you're looking to sort of run it at a bit of a faster pace. It's also where you kind of want to be building speed over the longer distances now. So you've got that really good routine, you've got the habits in there, you're running consistently, but then you can really layer up the speed work. So this is kind of the time that you do sort of a lot of like tempo work, lactate threshold, and just ensure that you are extending now some speed over the longer distances. So yeah, having a half marathon in this phase could be ideal. Again, this phase, if we're working on the 16-week phase, this phase is probably going to be about 4 weeks. However, if you've got longer, then yeah, you can use anywhere between 6 and 8 weeks with this phase as well. Now phase 3 is when you really start to get into your marathon specific work, and also when it's kind of like the peak phase. So again, this is normally about 4 to 5 weeks long, maybe 4 to 6 ideally, and this is when you really start to sort of work on those marathon pace efforts in some of your tempo runs. It's where you start building your sort of like VO2 max, so your really short sharp intervals earlier on in the week. And then your long runs really start to extend out, and this is when you hit your peak mileage. Look, as I've like kind of just discussed, you need to make sure that that build phase works so that in the third phase you are ready for that and that increased intensity. Again, obviously, like I'm talking about like some of these words, people might be like, whoa, I've never heard of like what tempo runs are, VO2 max. But you know, if you are quite new to the marathon training game, then you don't have to worry too much about that. You know, it's more so about building the distance at this stage. So yeah, phase 3, although we say it's like marathon specific work, you know, it could be marathon specific in the sense that this is going to be where you're hitting your longest run, basically about time on feet and just ensuring that you are ready for that race day. And then last but not least, one of my favourite stages, phase 4, is the taper. Now some people absolutely hate this, but I love it. So essentially, once you hit your sort of like peak week, you'll have 1 week which will be peak, and then you go into the taper, which is kind of anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks. Most people go for around 3 weeks. So you hit your biggest mileage, and the taper is when you start to reduce your intensity, reduce the volume of your training, and essentially getting yourself ready for race day. I personally love it. I thrive off it. You know, in the last week or so, you might get like itchy feet. You might still like feel niggles that you've never felt before, but all it is just making sure that you get yourself ready for race day. Like when you talk about training and physiological adaptations, if I go out for a run this morning, I'm not going to get the benefits from that run exactly straight after that run or the next day. It takes a couple of weeks for you to sort of do your sessions, recover from them, and get the adaptations and the benefits from them. So cramming some stuff in that last couple of weeks, if you've missed training earlier on, is not going to have a benefit for you. Stick with that taper, trust the process, and then you'll get to race day absolutely fine. Remember, you want to get to the start line in the best position possible, whether that's, you know, with a little bit less training, but making sure that you're injury free. That's going to be the way forward for you. So yeah, that's the 4 phases of your training plan. And you know, if you've got a coach or you've got a training plan, then you might not need to worry about that, but you kind of know how your training plan is built up. So next question, what should my training week look like? Now this will look completely different to everyone else. If you are fairly new to running, depending on how much time you've got and also how much load your body can take, 3 to 4 runs a week is absolutely fine. You know, you can download a training plan online and it will tell you you've got to run 4, 5, if not 6 times a week. And if you're not used to that and you're used to running 2 to 3 times a week, you then jump into this training plan because you're really invested and you're really motivated. In a couple of weeks' time, you're more than likely gonna become injured, pick up a niggle, and will put you out for a few weeks. So, you know, don't ever feel like pressured that you have to run lots and lots of times a week. You just have to make sure that it fits in with your lifestyle, your commitment, and also what your body can essentially handle. So if you haven't run you know, 4 times a week before, then why not stick with 3 times a week and do some cross training? Cross training is really overlooked in marathon training, and people just feel like, oh, if I'm not running, then I'm not going to get the benefits. But essentially, if you're working your cardiovascular system, your body won't know whether you're running, whether swimming, or on the cross trainer. Obviously, you need to do the running because your body needs to be used to running for a long time. You know, as we say, time on feet, you know, your muscles need to ensure that they can adapt to running for that long period of time. But in terms of your endurance and fitness, your body doesn't know. So, you know, swimming is perfect. Cross training, so things like the cross trainer, the bike, the rower, add in an extra gym session a week just to get that cardiovascular endurance in, and you will be fine. You know, if you're used to running and you're a bit more experienced, then yeah, 5, 6 times a week is great, but you just need to make sure you add in that recovery time as well. So the staple runs that you need, and the first one, which everyone will talk about in a marathon training plan, is your long run. Most training plans will start at 8 or 10 miles, and don't be put off by that if you feel like, you know, you've been running half marathons quite continually. You know, just trust the process, start up and build up gradually. With these long runs, they should be slower than your target marathon pace. However, you know, if you are quite new to marathon training, or you are a bit more steadier, then, you know, going at your marathon pace isn't too much of a problem as long as you can recover from it afterwards. You know, if you are looking at sort of like the 9 10-minute miles, even like quicker than that, 7-8 minute miles for your marathon target pace, you need to make sure that you're running slower than that, just so that your body can recover from it afterwards. Like, one of the mistakes that I made in my first marathon training block is that I went out and basically run all of my runs at my what I ended up being my marathon pace, which, you know, kind of worked for me in that sense, but also I was constantly constantly had niggles. I suffered really bad with shin splints, which then brought a lot of problems for me over the years to come. I felt awful for the couple of days afterwards. Just couldn't, like, felt like I couldn't run for a couple of days. My body was just in pieces. So it's really important to take that long run slower to make sure you're working in that aerobic zone. With the long runs as well, you want to build them up gradually, and also want to factor in drop down weeks. So you can't just go 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Your body won't like that. So you need to make sure that every couple of weeks, every 3 to 4 weeks, you've got a week where the mileage drops. And as well, you'll be quite thankful for it, because you'll be like, oh, I've only got 12 miles on my plan today. And trust me, if you're thinking that and you think, whoa, is that really going to happen? You will say that by the end of your marathon training. I promise you. So yeah, make sure you build up gradually and factor in those drop down weeks. Now, if you are experienced, you can add in multiple 20 milers. That's not a problem. Again, you just need to factor in that load if you're used to it. However, you know, if you are on the steadier side and you're worried about how long you're going to be on your feet for, you don't necessarily need to reach 20 miles in training. That's kind of like the pinnacle, and again, something like a label. People feel like if you can get to 20 miles, then the extra 10k on the day you'll get round with the atmosphere, which is very true for some people. But however, if 20 miles is going to take you 5 hours, probably wouldn't recommend that, just because of the time that it's going to take for you to recover afterwards. So say, for example, you did 20 miles in 5 hours 3 weeks before your marathon, it's probably going to take you longer than 3 weeks to recover from that, to get fully recovered again for race day. So you just have to factor that in, and there's no shame in doing 16 or 18 miles as your longest run, just to make sure you've got that right taper. One thing as well is just to make sure that they're very continuous and consistent. So, you know, you might see your friend of yours gets to 22 miles in training only once. However, if you've done a couple of 14 miles, a couple of 16 miles, and maybe 18 miles consistently, and you're running it every Sunday, you're the person that's going to do better than that person that's just run once 22 miles. So don't compare yourself, and just trust your own plan and what your coach or your training plan tells you. Next up, one of our key sessions is our speed sessions. So we like to build in both intervals and tempo runs into our clients' training plans. Now, the idea of intervals is if you're going faster, you're going to build your VO2 max, which will then make your marathon pace easier. If you can run faster over shorter distances, when you start to tap into your marathon pace, it's going to be like, oh, this feels great. So that's kind of the idea of running our intervals. And the speed session, like I said, in like sort of phase 2, you really work on that lactate threshold, so working around your half marathon pace, and then maybe in the phase 3 you start working at your marathon pace and start building that into your training, sort of maybe like your Thursday runs, or your second speed session of the week, just to make sure you can dial into what marathon pace feels like. Now, I've gone through multiple training plans where I've not done too much work at marathon pace, so all of my long runs are slower than marathon pace, all of my speed work is faster than marathon pace. I've done some races which I've done like half marathons and, you know, gone quicker than marathon pace. And I'm like, how the hell am I going to hold 26 miles for that pace? But trust me, it all comes together on the day. The structure, it does work, I promise you. We've spoken about long runs, we've spoken about speed work. We also need to make sure that we factor in that cross training. So like I said, if you're only running 3 or 4 times a week, do another cross training session, which will help to increase your training volume, but without the sort of intensity and added load, because running is such a repetitive movement. Just open yourself up to injuries if that's the case. We also have to factor in our strength and core work, which we provide in the Running Hub platform. So we're an online membership platform where we run strength, core, stretching classes all throughout the week, and also have a great community support you on your journey, whether it is a 5k or whether it is a marathon too. We provide you with the classes so you can come and join the community, but if not, if you already know what you're doing in the gym, then just make sure you can either get yourself into the gym or even do it at home. You know, we've all come accustomed to home workouts now. So yeah, really important to add your strength and core work into your routine, just to make sure that your body is strong, you've got great posture when you're running, and it's just going to make sure that you have a better performance at the same time. And last but not least is to add in recovery days, rest days. Now, it's a big topic with rest days. We love to factor in a rest day. I personally love to have a rest day because, you know, it makes me train harder in the week. So then I'm like, yes, rest day has come along. I can really enjoy it and soak up all of the training. And if you don't take rest, then your body just starts to fatigue. Every time that you train, your body breaks down. And if you haven't got enough time to rebuild it, then you're just going to train on tired muscles all the time. So make sure that you rest properly, but also do all of the things that can help you to recover quicker. So thinking about your nutrition, your hydration, stretching, foam rolling, going to see a physio or a sports masseuse every sort of 3 to 5 weeks, just to keep on top of things. So rest is also just really important. So I know that this topic is, I've gone on for quite a lot of this question, but you need to make sure you're building your long runs in, having speed work if your body can handle it, make sure you do your cross training, stretching, core, strength work. It is a lot, so that's kind of why you need to make sure that you can fit it all into your routine and make sure it works for you. So lastly, just to set you off on your training journey, I'll leave you with some final top tips to make sure that your marathon training plan and structure can be really successful. So it's really important to remember that you will experience highs and lows throughout this journey. You know, really embrace the good days, and when things don't go to plan, just box it off, learn from it, and move on to the next thing. We also encourage you to build some races into your training plan. We'll talk about that probably next week or in a few weeks' time, and that essentially helps you to get ready for race day, prep your kit, understand what a race feels like. It's a time to practice your kit, what you may be running in on the day, so that if you make any mistakes, you can rectify them before. Running races makes some of the training runs easier. If you have tempo runs, you can try and fit those into races, but also as well, like, racing has that physiological adaptation and those benefits to help you towards your marathon. Also to remember, don't over race either, because by the time that your race comes, you'll be too tired, and then you'll pay for it on the race day. Make sure you listen to your body. It's really important throughout your marathon training plan, because you'll have a plan, and I can tell you now, categorically, you are not going to complete 100% of your training plan. No one ever does. You'll need to change things around due to work commitments or family things. You'll have to skip a run because you've picked up a little niggle. You know, just make sure that you listen to your body, and if it's telling you that you need to rest, then make sure you add in that extra rest, because then you'll be better for the next week. And you can carry on training without trying to fit it all in because you feel like you have to, and making it worse later on down the line. Another point to add on top of that is, don't try and cram stuff in. So if you've missed a couple of days, or you've missed a week of training due to illness, don't feel like you need to play catch up. If you cram it all in too soon, you're not giving yourself that rest, and then lo and behold, a few weeks later you may become injured again. So never chase a plan. That's one of our biggest top tips. Remember that consistency is king. It's one of the biggest things that we try and tell to our clients. Just be consistent, and I promise you the benefits will pay off. Sure that you do your strength work, your core training, rest and recover, look after yourself, and most importantly, enjoy the process. Like we've said 100 times before, training for a marathon is a huge investment, not only of your time, but in you as a person. You're training for this marathon because you want to achieve something. You want to personally develop yourself. Just really enjoy it, embrace it, and learn something new about yourself, because marathon training will teach you a lot about you as a person and what you can handle. Now, for me, if anything, sometimes I actually really enjoy the marathon training process more than the actual race day. I mean, don't get me wrong, the race day is flipping awesome, but the actual process I personally really thrive off of. I feel motivated, I feel determined. Like I said, it teaches you a lot. You develop, you learn, you grow, you evolve. So just really have fun with it, because you're invested, you're in it, and if anything, good luck. Thank you for watching this video today. I hope that this has given you some useful tips to take on your marathon training journey. Please like, subscribe to our channel for some more training tips, which will be coming up in the next few months, especially leading up to those autumn marathons. If you are interested in joining the Running Hub community, we have lots of our athletes which are taking on London, Brighton, Manchester, Loch Ness, Abingdon, Newport, There's a whole host of them. So if you want to be supported on your marathon training journey, then please come along and join the Running Hub. I'll leave a description down below. If you're not training for a marathon, then don't worry. We support runners of any ability, of any pace. All you need to do to be part of the Running Hub is to have that enthusiasm and passion for running like we all do, and also like to buy new trainers, because we all do. We'll support you on that journey. So yeah, I'll leave a link for you to sign up if you're interested in joining us. We're a great team. Like I said, it's an online membership platform, but we're also soon, hopefully, going to be becoming a running club. We'll be a virtual one, but just an opportunity for you to meet like-minded people, have that support on your training journey, and basically just talk about running, because that's what we love to do. So thank you once again. You know what to do, and I'll see you in the next video.